I have a new power! Burn your eyes out! Okay, it doesn't look good anymore. Hello everybody, it's Philly Kuts with another comic book haul. Number 21. We're going to be speaking about new powers in a little bit. But first, help me name my comic book haul show, will ya? I've been asking you guys for weeks. We had some good guesses, good tries, but it hasn't happened yet. And I will send you this free of charge, Clive Barker's Hellraiser The Road below. It's a one-shot deal, graphic novel, $15 retail. Kirsty Cotton has become a Cenobite. There she is on the back, and this is her first mission, and she has some problems with it. Alright, it's a good book. I really enjoyed it, and I want to share it with you, so try to name my comic book haul, okay? Alright, we got a big week. Big week. Lots going on in the DC universe. This is why I got my Superman shirt on, which always causes a lot of controversy when I go to the gym. This dude the other day, I was wearing this, and he's like, You're wearing a shirt like that, it makes a big statement. I'm like, I'm just, I kind of read Superman a little bit. Not really, I read this. Batman Superman, that's the one I read. But, I'm just, wearing the shirt, it's blue, I like it. But anyway, Superman, number 38. This is big, okay? There's two big things happening there. You notice Superman's hand there? There's a little variation there on his costume. And also, Superman has a new superpower, if you can believe it. Another superpower in his arsenal of tricks. Too much? Is it too much? Does Superman really need another crazy superpower? I'm going to let you know what it is because it's already out on the internet. It's called Super Flare. Super Flare, people. And this is what happens when he does it. As you can see, there's his body. And he just obliterates. It's like a nuclear explosion or something times 100. Boom. And it goes on and on. Look at that. Booyah. Solar Flare. Super Flare. There he is. Superman. Now, I'm going to tell you, I'm not going to spoil it, but this superpower comes with a super price, a super penalty. I'm not going to reveal what that is, but he has to pay a big price when he has usage of this power. Also, at the end of this book as well, there is also a special guest character, I guess you would say, at the very end. A la Uncle Ben in the Spider-Verse ending there that one time on Spider-Verse. It's kind of like a surprise character. I'm not going to tell you who that is either, but I don't know. What do you think, guys? I decided to pick it up because I was curious about this. If you notice, they jacked the price up to $5. It's a little bit of a bigger issue. But, and there's the back cover. The cover continues to the back. But I bought this mainly because Jeff Johns is the reader, and those of you who have been watching my comic book haul videos as of late, you know that I've become like a big Green Lantern fan, and I've been devouring the Jeff Johns New 52 segment of his run. So, so far I've read Volume 1, Sinestro, and number 2, The Black Hand, and I'm in the process of reading number 3, End Days, I believe it was called. That was the final run he had. And then also in the volume before this, Jeff Johns did a whole bunch of Green Lantern work. But I really like Jeff Johns, so if it's anything like Green Lantern and the vast universe that has, I mean, I know I'm going to enjoy probably Superman. So I'm going to try Superman out this issue, see how that goes, and I may continue it. Because from last week's Keep or Sleep, Catwoman, I haven't decided yet if I'm going to keep it or sleep it. Keep going with the series or put it to bed. So that's kind of in limbo because I haven't read the book yet. So that's not a good sign either, right? Usually when you get your comics, you can't wait to read them. And this is actually the last book from last week that I've yet to read. So that is still in limbo, people. in the keep or sleep status from last week. All right, another big issue, for me anyway, Green Lantern, number 39, folks. And in this issue, I guess Green Lantern has to deal with the Guardians for some shit that he did over the big, oh my god, what was it, the big Godhead saga, which I didn't read. I haven't read Godhead saga. I didn't start getting the new Green Lanterns until last issue, number 38. And that was where Hal Jordan wanted to go home, back to Earth, to have a beer and to relax after this whole Godhead saga. Now, I'm not going to go back and read Godhead probably until they come out with a trade. Because like Spider-Verse, it was this big, massive, like, tie-in, crossover event, you know, with Red Lanterns, Green Lantern Corps, Green Lantern New Guardians, all that stuff, Sinestro. So they had every book involved in this thing, and I think it ended up being like 20 freaking issues, all right? 20 issues. And I'm just going to wait and see what they do. Hopefully they're going to come out with one big trade, and I can order it offline or online for a discount. Or maybe they're going to break it up into 2 volumes. I don't know, because 20 issues or something, that's a crazy amount of books. So I'm going to wait and see what they do with that. If you notice, Harley Quinn is on this cover. And that's because all month, Harley Quinn is on DC covers, and she's having a special Valentine's special out for Valentine's Day. So I can't wait to read this. This is probably going to be the first one that I'm going to read. Last week, Sinestro was the first book that I read in my poll. And I want to see what happens with the Guardians and if he's going to have some sort of penalty that he's going to have to pay. I mean, from the description of what the issue is about, it sounds like that he's in some deep shit with those wascally, deceptive Guardians. Here he is talking to some of them, I guess. There he is. And I love Green Lantern because every issue, it seems that you're introduced to some new faction, to some new race of being, some new species of being. Like right here on the opening page. Like, who the heck are those guys? You know what I mean? And I just love it. That's what I love about the book. I love that there's different factions. There's all kinds of politics. You know, backstabbing. It's just a great, great book. And if you haven't ever checked out Green Lantern, I highly recommend it. It's one of my favorite new books that I've been getting since I started collecting again about 6 months ago. So I'm loving it, dude. I'm loving it. All right. More DC and another Harley Quinn cover. Detective Comics number 39. This continues the Anarchy storyline where it last left off. Batman seemed to be getting framed for a deed, an evil deed that he did not do, so the populace of Gotham is really against him. This dude, Anarchy, somehow got a hold of everybody's like digital footprint, their digital background, their records. If you had a criminal record, if you had bad credit, anything, it was all erased. And he left on everyone's doorstep in Gotham, I guess like a mask. And he told the people, he's like, if you want to play in this social experiment, throw on the mask. There's one right there. And you'll have a new identity, a fresh start in life. The rat race is at 0 for everybody. You can reinvent yourself. So I think that that's like a really interesting premise. I'm really looking forward to it. Mad Hatter is involved in this story arc as well. There he is there in prison. Mini spoiler, Anarchy helps him out. I won't say what happens, but he definitely helps him out. Kind of fakes him out, too. For a minute there, the Mad Hatter thinks that Anarchy is Alice in some sort of haze. But I'm really liking this Detective Comics story arc. I think I'm even enjoying it more than the Batman Endgame story arc. I don't know. I kind of like Detective Comics a little bit better because it kind of, as the name implies, gets more into the detective aspects of things, the investigations and stuff. So I really like that about Detective Comics. And I'm happy with that so far. And I'm really happy with that cover, man. That's definitely a front runner so far for cover of the week. All right, on to Marvel. And I got Punisher. Last issue, Punisher was taken out by this group called the Howling Commandos, who had kidnapped his family, surviving members of his family, which is a big deal for Frank Castle, right? Because if you know anything about the Punisher came into being because his family was assassinated by mobsters, I think, in a mob hit, crossfire and a mob hit. And thus, Punisher was born. But I was pleasantly surprised when I got Punisher last month. And it was risky for me, and I'll tell you why. Because growing up as a kid, I was really, really into Punisher. Like, that was probably my favorite title growing up as a kid. And I can remember getting Punisher, Punisher Warzone, Punisher War Journal. There was a classic issue of Punisher War Journal. I think it was like number 7 or number 8, where he does battle with Wolverine. And that was like huge, because I was into Wolverine too. I think it was like around the first time, it was like in the early 90s when Wolverine got his first solo comic. So that was like huge. And I was afraid to get this because I didn't want to ruin the nostalgia factor. You know what I mean? Like, this happens to me a lot with video games. Like, I'll remember video games as a kid, right? Like on N64, you know, I'll play like Ocarina of Time or something. Or even earlier, like Sega Genesis, you know, like Altered Beast or Ghouls and Ghosts. And as a, you know, in memory, it's like the best fucking thing in your head. You know, you have so many good memories of it. And then I would go ahead and play it again. And I'm like, this isn't really how I remembered it in my head. And it gets kind of ruined. And it kind of like taints the memory. I guess I almost liken it to like, I don't know, one of your favorite players in sports or something playing too past their prime or something. So I was kind of scared to get it. But I was pleasantly surprised that the nostalgia, it was better than I guess I remembered it. So I'm like really looking forward to reading more about Frank Castle and this Howling Commando saga. It almost seems like, too, that they made Frank Castle a bit more cunning and calculating than I remember. I kind of just remember Punisher being kind of like Hellboy-esque, kind of, you know, bang right through the front fucking door and just kill and pillage, you know? So I'm really looking forward to it, and I'll keep you guys posted. So for now, this is a keeper. This is a keeper. So Punisher, check it out. All right. We are on to Hellboy and the BPRD number 3. I can't believe we're already up on issue number 3 with that, because it seems like this just came out. This is Hellboy as an adolescent, although he doesn't look it. He ages quicker, right? I guess he's like in dog years. So he's really, I don't even remember. He might not even be an adolescent. He might be like a prepubescent. I don't remember exactly his age, but he's new. He's like a rookie. And this is, like the year says, BPRD 1952. And this is Hellboy's very first mission with the BPRD. What the hell's the BPRD? It's a government organization based out of, I think, Fairfield, Connecticut, of all places, right? Got to be inconspicuous. Bureau of Paranormal Research and Defense, people. These guys were the guys before Mulder and Scully. Anything supernatural that happened, this is the team that you called, the Ghostbusters. In this, they're fighting some sort of, like, demon monkey. And in this issue, it's revealed even more that there's some sort of experiments going on. There's some sort of occultism going on, which is why I love BPRD and Hellboy, because they always deal with these occult issues and circumstances. There's always something a little shady, almost satanic and evil going on. And Hellboy is from hell, as the name indicates. But this is a great, great book. It's got an all-star team. You got Arcudi doing the scripting, Alex Maleev the art, and Dave Stewart. If those three sound familiar, that's because they're doing the Image series Rumble right now, which is also a really cool book that I suggest you check out. And you can't go wrong, you know, especially if Dave Stewart is on the case. It's great. Now, the only complaint that I really have about the series is that the members of BPRD that are in this, I guess, are new too, because it's way back in '52. And the members and cast and crew of the BPRD in this reiteration of BPRD are nowhere near memorable of like the ones we're used to that Hellboy was paired up with, where it was like Abe Sapien, Liz Sherman. Oh God, what the hell's the name of the homolingus guy? I can't think of it. I think Howard. Like those guys were just like a cast and crew to be remembered. And speaking of which, I bought this a couple weeks ago. It's an omnibus. They started putting these out in paperback. This was only $20, and it was over 400 pages, people. I mean, look at this thing. Plague of Frogs. And this gives you the background story of Abe Sapien, who's this guy right here. I love Abe Sapien. And I just love how much that this crew in BPRD they stick together so much, and they really have such empathy and care and concern about one another. And that's what really struck me the most when reading this. I want to like actually give this a full freaking review. There's the crew right there. Roger. Yeah, I don't know if I said it right. I think I called him something else. He's a homolingus. A homunculus. But just such caring and the writing in here in these books. And there were some great writers in here. Jeff Johns did a story. Christopher Golden, I think. Mike Mignola wrote some of these, and he's the creator of Hellboy. I mean, this is just a tremendous book. So if you're ever thinking about getting into BPRD or were scared to, this is a great place to start, man. And I was really surprised at how good this was, even without Hellboy. Like, there is no Hellboy in here. But they make references to Hellboy, because Hellboy quit BPRD. He was upset with the organization, and he left. But these people, these members, they miss him. They loved Hellboy, and they love each other. And that's what I was struck the most by this. Was just the careness and the cohesion that these characters have with each other. It was just great. So I highly recommend that omnibus. You can't get a better deal. If you order it online, you could get it for even like $15, I think. So you can't go wrong. All right, speaking of great writing, Joshua Williamson, Birthright, number 5. In the last issue, father and sons took off from the police. They were on the run. Mom stayed where she was. Basically, a child went missing, okay? Gone for a year. Little kid. I don't know, probably like 5 or 6 years old. He comes back, and he's like Conan the Barbarian. And he gets picked up by the police, and, parents get called because he's claiming to be their son. And Dad just totally buys into the story. He believes it because this guy, this barbarian, knows stuff about the family that, only they would know if they were part of the family. Let me give you a picture of him. There he is right there, slaying a beast, fighting the wizard named Ward. And he's doing a number on him. As you can see, he just hacked and slashed right through him. But Mom is like, you're batshit crazy. And it's just great. The writing in here is great because you really have some tense moments between the mother and the father. And the father knows that the mother blamed him for his child's disappearance and possibly death. Like the mother, the father feels that the mother suspected that he murdered the kid. So it's just like writing like that. I'm looking forward to this right here. I mean, it doesn't look like the most exciting panels, but he gets reunited with the mother after they've been on the run from the police. And they're getting in a fight. They're going at it. They're going at each other. I just glimpsed at it. I can't wait to like really sit down and process it because I really want to see what the mother is going to say to him and what he's going to say back. So it's just great, and then it's also great how they keep Williamson keeps flashing back to when Mikey was in the Torinos world. That's the ultimate dimension world, or wherever he got portaled to when he went missing as a child. He kind of switches back and forth to when Mikey first got there and he was still a kid, and then it flashes back to him as the adult back on Earth. So the switching feels really, natural and in place, and it doesn't feel forced. And that's just why, Williamson's one of the best writers in comic book land today. Newer writers, anyway. And another great writer, Witches, number 4. This is Scott Snyder's horror book about the witches. You don't want to get pledged. If you want to find out what that term means, you got to read the book. I can't spoil everything for you. Sailor, 13-year-old, got involved in a tragedy. She ended up shooting and killing a bully. Family moves to a new neighborhood to escape all the chaos that brought to their family. They moved to the sticks, the boondocks, and crazy things just start happening. In the last issue, if you remember, Sailor went missing. I think she stole a school bus, I'm trying to remember, and just kind of took off. Went into the woods, and then the witches grabbed her. Her father starts going nuts. A la Exorcist style, he gets messages on his stomach written in his veins, and he's all tweaked and freaked out about it. Tries telling his wife that, I had writing on my stomach and my veins. They said here, she's here. And then when the wife goes and looks at it, there's nothing there. So she thinks he's just psychotic or batshit crazy. No, honey, it just looks like a bruise. So I'm looking forward to see what happens to Sailor. I guess in this issue, his father goes looking for her. And he encounters some mysterious woman who gives him more information about the witches, about the lore of the witches, what they're all about. And I'm just looking forward to that. Now, there's one thing that I don't understand, and it's with Hollingsworth. He's the colorist. And I'm sure that this wasn't his only decision, but they keep making, everything in this book is like blotchy, if you notice. You see these color blotches? And in some of the pages it gets worse, and some it thins out a little bit. I don't understand what is going on with that. It kind of reminds me of like an old photograph. You're looking at an old photograph, and if it starts to deteriorate. I remember in one of these cinema classes I took, there was a movement of people that took film, and they buried it. And they would leave it in the ground, exposed, just buried in the ground, roll film, for like a year. Then they would dig it up, and it would be all deteriorated, and they would play it. And it would have all these, like, cool kind of distortion effects on it. So, I don't know. I don't know. It made me think of that. Like, is this some sort of strange memory that he's having with the deterioration of the film? I don't know. I couldn't understand what they're doing with that. And to be honest, it's very, like, distracting. And I don't understand what purpose it serves other than to maybe agitate the fuck out of you. And, dudes, it's working. I mean, that's all I'm going to say. Spider-Man. Star Wars number 2. Cliffhanger ending last time. You had Luke Skywalker running back into old Darth Vader again. Except this time he doesn't know that Darth Vader is his father. Because remember, this takes place right after the events of New Hope. Right after the rebels blew up the Death Star. Well, the issue starts off with a bang, okay? Darth Vader and Luke get in somewhat of a lightsaber battle. It's kind of like Darth Vader just taunts him and says, "You're a piece of shit. You're not even worthy to have this. You're a child. You were a child. You don't know what you're getting into." Like, literally, he just says that to him. Pretty much laughs at him. And the rest of the issue, I guess, is kind of like these guys, the rebels, assaulting, it's called Sea Moon 1, or Sea Moon 1. And the reason why they're invading this moon, which is controlled by the Empire, is because it's like the largest weapons manufacturing facility in the Empire. So the Rebel Alliance, they want to get control of that. They want to fuck it up. You got all the good characters in here. You got C-3PO, R2-D2. There's a new creature that I've never seen before. I don't know if somebody knows the name of that creature. You let me know. There's C-3PO in a classic submissive pose like he's always in. So, I don't know. What do you guys think of Star Wars so far? I think I'm going to probably stick with it for a while. I'm really enjoying the nostalgia here, too, which really worked, because I still think the original trilogy is so superior compared to the second trilogy, and I really have my fingers crossed about Abrams taking over the trilogy, because I really liked what he did with the 2 Star Trek films. Let me know what you guys think of this. And let me know for the topic of the day if your nostalgia was ever ruined. So like I said before, was there something as a kid or something when you were younger, as a teenager, that you really, really loved, and then you went back and you played it, or you read it, or you watched it again, and you were like, what the fuck was I thinking? What was I thinking? And just let me know. Alright? For me, it's definitely 16-bit era video games. Alright. We have Nameless. This is brand new from Image Comics. It's by Grant Morrison. I don't know much about him, but he's some Scottish writer who's like a god, I guess, in the comic book world. Forgive me for my ignorance, but I've never read anything by him, and I guess that he's done a ton of work with some big titles in the day. You know, like X-Men, Fantastic Four. I think he's done some work on Superman, Batman. I mean, this guy's like, he's like royalty, you know? He's like, I don't know, maybe Stan Lee status? Although Stan Lee's regarded more as a publisher, correct? Let me see what goes on here. I went into this pretty blind. I just read the tagline. And this is it. This is all that I know. I don't know anything else, but it sounded real interesting, and you guys know that I love horror. Here's the plot summary. I'm going to read it right from the site. An astronomer kills his family, then himself, leaving a cryptic warning. A veiled lady hunts her victims through human nightmares. An occult hustler known only as Nameless is recruited by a consortium of billionaire futurists for a desperate mission. And the malevolent asteroid Exbalbia, can't say it, spins closer on a collision course with Earth. But nothing is what it seems. A terrifying inhuman experiment is about to begin. Abandon all hope and experience ultimate horror in Nameless. And I just, went on the internet and browsed some of the reviews, and they're very mixed. A lot of people are saying that it's kind of all over the place. You just get kind of dropped into this world, and it's like dreamy and just far out, and people don't know what the hell's going on. It's like some deranged acid trip. And I'm leafing through the book, and it seems like there's many state changes. I mean, look at this. You're in outer space, and then you're in some city, and there's some lizard with a knife, lizard people looking in on a woman in her window. I mean, there's all kinds of weirdness going on here. And I guess that Morrison writes very, untraditional, non-linear stories. At least according to Wikipedia. I did a little primer on him. But I'm looking forward to it. Because I did read this book that Grant Morrison wrote, which I highly recommend too. It's called Super Gods, and it's basically a history of comic books and what influence comic books have had on American culture, and he even delves into British and UK culture. And it's a very interesting book. Maybe in the future I'll do more of a review on it, but if you want a great history of the evolution of comics and how different themes started to be explored and expanded in comics, and what was popular in, say, 1960, check this out. Alright? That's the reason why I picked it up. And finally, we have from Vertigo Comics, which is a subsidiary of DC, Wolf Moon Part 3 of 6, written by Cullen Bunn, who I love because he writes Sinestro, and he's done such a good job with fleshing out Sinestro, making him more complex. I love Sinestro, man. Guy's got issues, but I love him. Wolf Moon. It's a werewolf story. This guy got possessed by a werewolf. This werewolf possesses someone with each new full moon. He possessed this guy. This guy can't get over it. And he wants revenge, and he wants to take out this freaking werewolf before he keeps possessing other people. That's basically the crux of it. It's a pretty straightforward story. There's always lots of gore and guts and attacks. And in this issue, exotic dancers, which is always a bonus, right? Sex and violence, sex and violence, sex and violence. Who sang that song? That was a punk song, and that was the whole song. It was like, sex and violence, sex and violence, sex and violence, sex and violence, sex and puking. Right there. I don't know. It's a kind of a weird book sometimes, and there's always like a slashing and fighting in here. Like, I don't know. Looks like this guy is in some sort of transition state between werewolf and something. He looks like a zombie, but he ends up biting this guy's like head off. You guys know I always put a shock horror thing in my reviews, in my hauls. But look at this. He trashed it. He like bit off half of his face. And then he becomes the werewolf. So really, really cool stuff. I'm interested to see where this goes in this issue. Last issue, we were introduced to another hunter, another guy that is hunting the werewolf. So I'm wondering if him and our main protagonist, Dylan Chase, what the history is between those two, if any, and what conflicts those two are going to have. So it'll be really interesting. All right, guys, it's that time. I got to wrap it up, but first let's select a cover of the week. Let's see. This is hard. Let me get up here. This might be the hardest week for me since I started doing covers of the week. This one's out. Witches does not have good covers. Nameless is out. I do like that Star Wars cover. That Hellboy cover is good. Oh, it's between the Quinns, people. What do you think? Batgirl, Harley Quinn knocking out Batman? Or Roller Derby Harvey against Roller Derby Hal Jordan Green Lantern? Fuck. Oh. I'm going with Batgirl. Detective Comics number 39 takes our cover of the week. Batman laid out on his ass by the lovely Harleen Quinzel. Alright, guys, it's been another comic book haul. Enjoy your books. Let me know what books you got in the comments section below. Talk about my topic of the week and try to name my comic book haul. If not, we're just going to do a drawing, alright? So I'll let you know next week what happens. So name the names, people. Name my show. Alright. Peace. Shut off!